Thank you very much. So you will be displaying the presentation and I will be just present. We are going to go through some slides on water management for sustainable agriculture production. First, some saying from Ban Ki-moon: the water is a precious resource, crucial to realizing the Sustainable Development Goals, which at their heart aim at eradicate poverty, of course, hunger as well. Next slide, please. When we talk about water, let's see about water withdrawals. 70% of water withdrawals is globally for agriculture, is used in agriculture production. But this is not set for all countries. You will see the portion of water withdrawal, which is 100%. Part of it goes for domestic water utilization. Part of it goes for industrial water utilization, and then for agriculture production. But this is an average. The 70% is an average, while in high-income countries, it can go as high as 95% for industrial water use. And then where in low-income countries, agriculture, the portion of agriculture use goes much higher than 70%. Can we go to the next slide, please? On the next slide, you can see it. In some countries, this portion for agriculture can go as low as 25%, even lower. Not only in industrialized countries, but also in some countries in Central Africa, where irrigation is not really taken as important. It's not that developed. So you will see in developed countries, the water withdrawal for agriculture compared to the water used in industry is that low. But also in these sub-Saharan, and these Central African countries. But you will see that in some countries, the Sahel countries, typically for Africa, and the whole of Africa, water withdrawal goes to more than 90% for agriculture, meaning that there is not much of industry over there. So this is the global situation. So water withdrawal for agriculture is much, much important in most of the countries. So go to the next slide, please. Let's look at the future importance for irrigated agriculture. By 2050, agriculture production have to increase to be able to feed the population. We are looking at more than 60% extra food required for the future coming from irrigated agriculture. For your information, we now have only 20% of the food is produced from irrigated agriculture, and it is contributing at 40% of food in the world. We have to increase up to 60%. Let's go to the next slide, please. Projected impact of climate change in Africa. Water stress and water scarcity and water vulnerability. We talk about water scarcity when a country is having less than 1,000 cubic meters of water per person per year. When you have less than that, then you are a water scarce country. And water stressed country is that country that is having between 1,000 and 1,700 cubic meters of water per person per year. And those countries that are water vulnerable are those that having between 1,700 and 2,500 cubic meters of water per person per year. As you can see in Africa, the Northern Africa, the Horn of Africa, and Southern Africa are water scarce countries. While the East Africa and part of the West Africa, they are water stressed countries. While we can say all the Sahel is rather water vulnerable countries. So this is the impact of the climate change on Africa. So developing countries are highly dependent on water for their growth and development. Those are developing countries. So we have to develop water in order to be developed. Many developing countries have low investment in irrigation systems, dams, and groundwater mobilization, and do not have enough water storage to manage demand. You will see in developed countries, they have many, many dams. They have many irrigated schemes. They have developed their groundwater. At the extent of some countries like India, there are even artificially recharging their groundwater because the mobilization was so high. While in Africa, we are starving, having groundwater at 6 meters of depth in the ground. And the cattle and people are starving because of the lack of investment. So this discharge reduction for largest African water basin. These are talking about the Niger, the Chad, and the Senegal. It's basically the West Africa. Studies in other parts of Africa were not considered. But there is a reduction because of many, many parameters. So by 2050, the area experiencing water shortage in sub-Saharan Africa will increase up to 29%. But this is rather if development is not done, because we still have resources. If not effort is made to develop those resources, of course, the shortages will be. But if we continue with the actual mobilization, we will not be able to satisfy the needs. So there is a need to start investing now. Government, private, they have to come together and invest in water development, and it is possible. The number of African countries experiencing water stress will rise to 18 and affect 600 million people. This information comes from the World Bank. But again, this is if proper decisions and actions are not taken. So due to transboundary nature of many water basins, conflict over water resources will be exacerbated. So there is a need to think now. People should work together when it comes to water development. As you know, African countries are rather partitioned not taking into account countries' development. So countries will have to adapt their behavior in order to be able to develop their water resources. Next slide, please. Let's look at the current situation in Africa in terms of irrigated agriculture. Here we say in Africa, only 7% of arable land is irrigated. But when we look at the sub-Saharan Africa, it's even lower, it's 4%. The 7%, we reach it when we consider the Northern Africa and South Africa as a country, because those countries have developed much more irrigated agriculture. But sub-Saharan Africa, we have 4%. In some countries, we have even much, much less. This is taken globally. But some countries, we have seen, like the Central Africa, irrigated agriculture is not developed. While we will see, people will tell you they don't need irrigation. But when you take an example to Southeast Asia countries, they have much more water, they have mussons, but their irrigation is quite developed. At that extent that countries like Vietnam, Thailand, they export their rice to Africa, while Africa is having much more water, but they never developed irrigation. So they cannot produce enough. So we have really to go by developing irrigation and changing the mind of people and decision makers. Sorry, yes, I was not seeing it clearly. Thank you. 90% of African farmers rely only on rain-fed agriculture for their livelihood. And you know, relying on rain-fed agriculture is relying like on hunting. You never know when it will come. You don't have control of it. Even 2 weeks of lack of rain for the whole season can bring farmers to their knees. So we have really to develop irrigation. Agricultural growth is key to reduce poverty in Africa and driving economic development. This we only talk about development. All developed countries, they have their agriculture developed. We will not talk about industries when we are fed by other people. We should be able to feed ourselves and then focus on other development. Africa is well endowed with the water resources, yet water withdrawal was at less than 3% of total renewable resources. As I said, we have plenty of water, but we don't mobilize the water. And agriculture is not developed. And then when you develop agriculture, of course, other water users also will have their stake. Additional investment in agriculture water management would pay great dividends, meaning that there will be much of income when water is developed for agriculture use, because you will also have water available for other users. Next slide, please. Then what we'll consider as the integrated approach to build water resilience in sub-Saharan Africa. We have really to consider all possible fields, because water alone, by damming and having it, will not suffice. So we have to establish and vulgarize knowledge based on good practices on water development, conservation, and management. We have to establish appropriate infrastructure at appropriate level. Sometimes you will see some infrastructure that will not be used because many other things were not considered before developing the infrastructure. So throughout studies have to be made to be sure that the infrastructure will be appropriately used. Coordination of our institutions' activities and harmonization of water-related policies and strategies. Actually, we are working with the IGAD, COMESA, and East African Community to develop irrigation strategies for each of those regional economic community. There is a necessity to have integrated approach to develop harmonized strategy that where also even transboundary waters will be able to be used efficiently without bringing in conflicts. So we have to establish and strengthen water users association, water boards for proper water governance. This is quite a problem because even in those very rare irrigation schemes that were developed, water management and water governance is a problem because of very weak, even sometimes non-existing water users association. So, and you know, associations are associations. Yes, you need specialists in water, but you need a specialist in the social sciences. You will need a specialist in law, because water is not alone as such, it's embedded in the community. So you need all specializations to go to have knowledge on water. You need also journalists that will dedicate themselves on water business. And it is a big business. You have those journalists specialized in sport, but we rarely have journalists specialized in water business. And it is really important. The awareness creation is necessary to have this integrated approach for water resilience. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just an example of what was done. This is in Sao Tome and Principe, where farmers were helped to do terracing, which is water conservation, but also to plant grass, which is for soil conservation. Next slide, please. So here then we continue with the integrated approach. We have to build the reliable long-term data on water resources, surface and groundwater, but also meaning hydrological data. The importance of collection of reliable data on water resources on many consecutive years is yet to be anchored in many government and non-government institutions. When you have to develop water, you need data. And you need data on years and years. For your example, you have probably you have heard about 3 gorges in China, the biggest dam in the world. I was there in 1983. I studied irrigation and dam construction and the hydropower. That time, they were telling us there was already 100 years that they were collecting data on 3 gorges. The construction was not yet there. They started collecting data even not having enough money for the dam. There is a necessity for us to collect data many years before the construction comes in. Because on those big infrastructure, you need records on 100, 150 years. Then you can really be sure that you will design sustainable, reliable, and long-lasting infrastructure. So data collection seems to be not very important now for many government and non-government institutions. And then it doesn't really plan for future development. Because even if you have money now, you cannot develop it. Yes, we have internet. We have data correction from internet, but it's not enough. We need data, and it should be starting now. So, and then we have to increase also number of water specialists in all fields: engineering, governance, administration, socio-economic development, health, legal, and information technology and communication. We need
Valere,
people, yes.
Just to ask you, I noticed you've done maybe 10 slides or something. Can I give you 5 more minutes to?
Yes, please. Go to the next slide, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the appropriate development. Here we have seen that large schemes are no longer well maintained, because there was a time with the one-party government where all money was from government. Then those schemes, when came multi-parties in the administration, those schemes were left alone. Now, small-scale irrigation schemes are the only option affordable and manageable by farmers and farmers groups. So now the development is going rather there, and the large schemes are left for private entities because there are people willing to invest in those. Go to the next, please. Yeah, those are just photos to keep. Next, please. Okay, how to build a strong partnership with the private sector. We need favorable and clear policies, strategies, and laws that will favor the private sector operators. We need human resources, the specialists, as I said before. But not only water-related legal instrument will have to be developed, but also all businesses related legal instruments will be well-defined to protect businesses. That's where private will come. So next, please. Opportunities offered by FAO. FAO is working in terms of agricultural water development. We are improving water control and the watershed management. We are supporting government to improve water control and the watershed management, to develop farmer-ready irrigation, small-scale irrigation technologies. Solar-powered irrigation is now a very big trend at small-scale irrigation. But also we have developed the water access technologies and the water governance tools. Next, please. Yeah, let's go to next. Tools developed by FAO. We have some technical tools, but we have also some governance tools. Technical tools, we have what you call CropWatt and ClimWatt, and then those are really for engineers. Those make doing the design. But we have water accounting, which is leading to governance. Next, please. But also in land and water, because you cannot develop water without developing land, we have other tools that you can see them. There is what we call VGGTs, which is the voluntary guideline for responsible governance of tenure of land, fisheries, and forestries. We have voluntary guidelines for sustainable soil management. We have principles for responsible investment in agriculture and food systems. We have water governance and water management. We have so many tools at FAO. Those are few, but if you click on one of them, then you go to the site, you will be able to just browse and see all existing tools within FAO in terms of land and water. Next, please. Yeah, we'll go to next, please. So there's a recommendation. This is the last slide. So sustainable use of water resources requires holistic, integrated, and concerted long-term planning. This is key. It has to be really understood. Available water technologies should be adapted. There is no one size fits all. There are technologies that are existing, but it has to be adapted to the situation of every country's, every group of users, and every user even. So all programs and projects should target multi-purpose use for available water resources. This means when you go for agriculture, look at also a domestic use. You look at also other uses. Most of the time when a dam is built, it can be multi-purpose. It can supply water, domestic water and municipal water. It can go for also agriculture. It can go also for other industrial development. So all available resources of water should be considered, even if it requires long-term subsidization for mindset and changing and adaptation. I'm talking about wastewater reuse. Some people will be reluctant to eat vegetable produced from wastewater from municipal sewage. But those are technologies that exist. You can produce safe food from that. In some water scarce situation, that water should be used. So there are many technologies. Then when the time comes really to develop them, people would discuss. So FAO is ready to engage into partnership to the development consolidation of intersectoral partnership at the global and the regional levels, and their declination to the national level representation in favor of the mobilization of the funding, including strengthening the food, energy, environment security links. That's all for the presentation. I'm ready for questions, suggestions, discussion you may have. Thank you. And thank you for your attention.
So
I'm not
can we just appreciate? Can we just appreciate our data? Yeah. Now, thank you very much. We have one question for you. What do you think the guys can do about all these things that you've spoken about? One thing that you really want to see reported that is underreported, that is key for us.
Can you
Just
please talk the mic closer, because I'm not getting you.
Saying, so you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but please speak louder and closer to the mic.
I'm actually shouting, eh?
Okay, now I hear you clearly.
The mic is close to my mouth. Okay, so you hear me now?
Yes, clear.
One thing that you generally report about that is underreported. One thing in 30 seconds.
Sorry, what?
One thing that you'd want journalists to report on or about.
Okay, 30 seconds.
That is underreported.
Yeah, water development is the key for any development. That is very important. Water development is key for a country to develop. For me, I think, and not only for me, and then through the presentation, you have seen that many of the things are not developed. If you develop water schemes, you will develop at the same time transportation, because you have to develop roads alongside the canals, alongside the infrastructure. You have to develop storage for the agriculture produce. You have to develop processing units. So by improving the agriculture production with irrigation, you will be starting really the development of a country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I open the floor to my colleagues. Any question? Yeah, you definitely know you have to come here. Make sure that you put the mic next to your mouth and shout a little bit. So after that, and then Sarah. Yeah, and then Paul, and we close it there in the interest of time.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
My question is about farmer-led irrigation. What would be the importance of farmer-led education and not education in ensuring that we deal with food security issues in sub-Saharan Africa?
So just write down the questions.
Yeah, who is this question from? The second question is from who?
Sharon. Sharon is a Kenyan.
Yeah.
Sharon is a Kenyan.
Yeah.
So there's another question coming from Paul, who is from Uganda.
Yes.
Good morning, Barayu. I'm called Paul Tetela. I'm from Uganda. I have 10 questions briefly. The first question is, what explains the list of Uganda among water-stressed countries? The second question is, what explains the listing of Rwanda and Burundi among countries under water scarcity? And the third question is there any country in Africa that is water secure? Thank you.
Thank you. So let me repeat to be sure that I got the question. What explains that Uganda is classified among the water-stressed countries, and then Rwanda and Burundi are water-scarce countries?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
the last one.
Yeah.
The last one is there a country in Africa?
Any country that is water
secure.
Water secure. Okay.
Yeah. My name is Romina. I come from Uganda as well. In my day-to-day,
Sorry, I'm not getting you.
journalism work,
I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing you. Can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you now. Please try to be to the mic and then.
The other mic.
Which one?
Up to this.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now it is clear. If everyone could use that mic, it would be wonderful. Come in.
Yeah, I'm saying,
yeah.
My name's Lominda. In my day-to-day work as a journalist, I do a lot of work with FAO in Uganda, especially in the farming communities. And what I tend to observe is that when FAO is addressing the issue of water shortage amongst farming communities in Uganda, they they do not look at provision of clean water to the farmers, especially those who are the animal husbandry farmers from national water source of water. Yeah. Yes, because in the rural areas, they tend to tap water from whatever source. Either it is not clean to be given to the animals or to be used for irrigation. So I was thinking, what is the level of FAO working in even other countries in a very close collaboration with the national water bodies? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we respond to this question? If everyone could use this mic, everything will be good, because I was getting her very clearly.
It's over, yeah. Mr. Nzeyimana. This is Sal again from Uganda.
And another question?
Hello? Yes, just a simple one from Uganda.
Please. Yeah.
You are talking about COMESA, IGAD, and East African Community coming together to make up a strategy on water. How soon is it? Is it in pipeline? Is it already underway? I would like to know about it.
Yeah, okay. Can I respond to this question? Then we'll come to others after.
Basically, what we are saying is that those are the last questions. You would take as little time as possible, maybe only 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So farmer-led irrigation. As I said, normally farmer-led irrigation schemes are very small at their level that they can manage. Because we have seen that large schemes where you have more than 10,000 hectares of irrigated schemes, 20,000, 40,000. Some countries did develop even more than 50,000. Some of them went even to 1 million. It has been found that those schemes are not viable. They are only viable when they are managed by private entities. But when it goes to public, they were not viable, but they were functioning when we did have single parties, political parties in countries, where everything was decided and developed where money would go. So they will swallow money from government. But now with the actual setup, it's no longer possible to put that much money in those schemes. So they have failed. You will see in many countries, studies were conducted. Many of those big schemes failed. So when you talk about farmer-led irrigation schemes, there are those schemes that are initiated, developed, of course, with support, and managed by farmers. Most of the time, they grow what they can sell. So when they have market, they have income, they will maintain it. That's how it is important. So farmer-led irrigation schemes normally are of a small size, depending on the community that is developing those ones. So I would say the importance is that even now World Bank, even FAO, because we had some consultations, were rather going into that in terms of developing schemes. I think I have responded to the second question. And then when we talk about water scarcity, I'm trying to respond to those 3 sub-questions. We have to have clear that water scarcity is not only the quantity scarcity. When we talk about water scarcity, of course, there is quantity scarcity, but also there is infrastructure scarcity, there is investment scarcity, and there is also human resource scarcity. This means that you may have water, but you don't have funding to develop it.
My-
That water will not be used.
I have to cut you.
Yes,
Short.
please. Yeah.
Yeah, would you be very succinct and not explain much? Because the next speaker is catching a flight in very few minutes after her presentation, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Okay. So that will be good. So that was what I was taking. And then we'll talk about providing water for domestic use. It depends on the mandate of every organization. Now we're looking into changes because I don't think that you have ever seen UNICEF providing water for agriculture. Initially, those UN agencies were providing according to their mandates, but now it is changing. We're talking about holistic use of water. Then irrigation strategies, consultants are working on it very soon. Next quarter, we will be validating those strategies. And then it's not a combined one. Every economic community is having its own irrigation strategy. Thank you.